Hey, what's up everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, so I started the Atlanta video and accidentally hit the power button while I was talking. So, yeah, want to talk Atlanta, Philadelphia. So this is what we got. The Atlanta Hawks are a very, very talented basketball team, and they have weapons from every angle. Talking Lou Williams, Kevin Herter, uh, John Collins, Clint Capella, Bogey Bogdanovich, Danilo Gallinari. They have so many weapons. It just goes on and on and on. And the thing about it is, they complement one another well. They have good coaching, and Lou Williams. I don't want to forget Lou Williams. The thing about this team also is that dynamic of Lou Williams and Trae Young. Those are two of the best players in all of the league that can draw fouls and create and one opportunities, 4-point play opportunities, seemingly at will, just by sheer body manipulation and angling themselves in positions to get fouls. They are two of the best at it in the entire game. And they're both on the same team. And when you have that dynamic, it's hard to keep a lead against a team like that because they're going to stop the clock and they're going to create scoring opportunities and get you out of the rhythm because of it. So at any given moment, you have a player on the floor that's basically going to stop the flow of play while putting points on the board. It's a dangerous, underrated dynamic that the Atlanta Hawks have to throw at anyone at any time. And it's helped them quite a bit. Quite a bit. Do not think that is just happenstance. Their GM and their analytics people knew exactly what they were doing by putting Lou Williams and Trae Young on the same team. And I think that dynamic is a great reason why they are still around and available for a game 7 in the second round. This is a very dangerous dynamic. No one is speaking about it, but I'm telling you, two of the very best. The only other person I can think of that's better than them at that is James Harden. They got two of the best. So with that being said, couple that with the strength and the power of a Clint Capella who has a relentless motor and an ability to push around 90% of the centers in the league. Unfortunately, the guy he's going up against is not one of those people. But never mind that. He's holding his own, and that's important. You also got John Collins, who's basically an all-star, who hasn't had a chance to really make all-star teams because he's been on bad Atlanta teams. But now he has an opportunity to actually go after an Eastern Conference appearance, and that's a Eastern Conference championship appearance, and that's a big deal for him. So it's a lot on the line for this Atlanta team, a lot to prove. A guy like Kevin Herter, I think, is on the verge of stepping up and becoming an all-star caliber player himself. He's one of those talented guys in limited roles that probably, if given a bigger role, could step into uh, a better range of player. I think a guy like Kelly Olynyk and what he's doing at the Rockets in some of the positions, some of the roles that he's played in the past. I think of Kevin Herter as one of those type of guys. You give him more opportunities, I guarantee you he's going to give you more production. So when you got players like that all over the floor, guys like Danilo Gallinari, who's healthy, Bogey, who's having a career year, even though I know he got hurt in that last game. I'm not sure if he's going to be in Game 7. That's a big deal. But like you look at that team and they just have so much shooting talent and so much strength, power players, balance. And that's what I see in that Atlanta team, a balanced team that runs their stuff to perfection, that understands that no lead is safe against them, and they have the confidence that they can overcome it. So that's them, okay? Now, the Philadelphia 76ers are an entirely different situation because the Philadelphia 76ers, as I said, they have the one center that maybe in the entire league that is not going to be affected by Clint Capella at all, and that's Joel Embiid. He's strong as Clint Capella. He's as big as Clint Capella, and he's 100 times more talented than Clint. So all that stuff that Clint does against him just doesn't work. Thing about it also is there's a guy by the name of Dwight Howard back there. So even when he sits down, you still got to deal with somebody who can give Clint Capella problems. Because Clint Capella he's Dwight Howard 2.0 basically. He's the new version of him. So when you considering that, it's like Atlanta doesn't have the edge there. Now, where they do have the edge, unfortunately for the Philadelphia 76ers, is the fact that Ben Simmons is such a terrible spacer of the floor with his inability to shoot. So even though he's one of the best passers in the league, It does no good when everyone knows he's going to pass or drive. It shrinks the floor dramatically for the Philadelphia 76ers, and that is something that a lot of people have spoken a lot about. And it's reared its ugly head in this series, unfortunately. It's hard for them to keep leads with him running the floor because not only does he not shoot the ball, but he's reluctant to try to shoot free throws. He's not very good at that as well. So it really makes him a one-dimensional player. So what they found they needed to do after that horrible collapse in Game 5, was try to use the kid Tyrese Maxey a little more because he does the things that Ben Simmons doesn't do and some of the things that Ben does. Obviously, he's not as big as Ben, but who is? Point is, the way they've been using Ben Simmons has not given them the best result, and they've gone in a different direction and finally made some adjustments. Doc has, which has been one of the biggest things that people talk about in regards to Doc Rivers and his unwillingness to make said adjustments. But he's done so in regards to this, and they find themselves in this situation, I believe, because of it. I look at a guy like Danny Green and I say, that's a championship magnet. It is no coincidence that the Philadelphia 76ers are still alive and Danny Green just happens to be on the team. That's a winner, and if you call his number tonight, I'm pretty certain he's going to do some good things for you. But I don't think you're going to have to, because they have a guy by the name of Seth Curry who is stepping into his own and becoming an all-star caliber player before our very eyes, because he can't miss at all. When we talk about guys like CJ McCollum, I think of players like, who comes to mind, man? Prime Jamal Crawford. So many different scorers that have come along that are really good shooters, prime guys that can shoot the ball. Seth Curry is starting to insert his name into that conversation, in my opinion. Now, he's not as effective defensively as maybe some of those guys, which is why I don't think he becomes an all-star. But in terms of potent, consistent scoring, pure shooting, 3-level shooting, he's developing into a real problem. And the Philadelphia 76ers have him on their team. He's had a breakout season, even though he's been good. He had a great year with Dallas too, but he had a real breakout this year. He was fantasy relevant and he was consistent until he went down with COVID, I believe. But he's come back, he's gotten back in shape, and he's picked up right where he left off. He fits perfectly in that Philadelphia 76ers system, and he's the reason why guys like Shake Milton and Tyrese Maxey and Danny Green have had very, very limited roles. It's because he's played so well with the opportunities he's been given. And if he continues to shoot like this, it bodes very, very poorly for the Atlanta Hawks. So Seth Curry deserves a lot of credit because he's not just Dell's son and Steph's brother. He's coming into his own, and that's a real shooter in this league that has a lot of value at this point, especially since he's turning out to be a playoff performer. So big kudos to him. And you just got to appreciate it. A guy like Tobias Harris, we know he's better than what we saw in Game 5. I don't know what happened there. You know, he's not a great player, so when you're a talented player that isn't great, you're going to have nights like that. It just is what it is. But he's a lot better than he showed there. Him bouncing back in Game 6 wasn't surprising. He's going to have to play well in Game 7. And if he has a big game in Game 7, again, bodes very poorly for the Atlanta Hawks. So Philly has their weapons. You know, it's not like they're lacking weapons at all. They have plenty. But the thing about Doc Rivers' teams is we know historically he gives back leads. He gives back leads in real life in terms of basketball, and he gives back series leads as well. It's very, very important that the Philadelphia 76ers shake that off tonight and try to do the best they can to get this victory, because I don't see him retaining his role as coach with the Philadelphia 76ers if they lose this game tonight. Not after they lost Game 6. The way that they lost Game 6 was so embarrassing and so telling that if they don't move on and create things that make us forget about that, he's out of here. Just for that game, in my opinion. It just can't happen. Ben Simmons, same thing. Those guys, between those two individuals, if they don't win Game 7, I don't see them being on this with this roster next year. I don't see them being on this franchise next year. I don't. Because Ben Simmons, they've given him a lot of years to get it right, and he still hasn't worked through his three-point shooting demons. It's one thing to not be able to shoot and shoot a poor percentage. It's another thing to just simply not create the threat of shooting. And after many, many, many years of people telling him he needs to do this, he still has not attempted to. It's a problem. And if I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I don't want any parts of it. especially if I believe in Tyrese Maxey like I do. That's your starting point guard right there. Get rid of Ben Simmons. You can get a lot for him. He's a star. He's one of the great defenders in this league. Trade him because he's going to continue to be a liability on the offensive end no matter what. Whether you win tonight or not, that's just what it is. And the sick part about the whole situation is he doesn't have the worst three-point form in the world. You got guys that jack up three-point shots that are worse than him. A guy like Marcus Smart does not shoot better than Ben Simmons. He doesn't. If Ben Simmons attempted the same amount of shots as Marcus Smart, I'm pretty sure he'd have a better three-point percentage. Pretty certain. But it's a mental thing with Ben. And being that Ben has not addressed it or fixed it or whatever, maybe that's not on him as a young person. He's still a young kid. Maybe that's on the older people around him and on the organization to kind of coax him and help him, to coach him toward that. But whatever the case may be, the marriage should be over because they're not right for one another, period. Ben Simmons needs to be on a team like the Jazz. Tell y'all that right now. The best place for Ben Simmons, to my eyes, is a place where people shoot the ball all day long. Because if he's not shooting three, everyone else needs to be shooting. If he's not shooting the three, everyone else needs to be. That's how I look at it. And as long as you have that dynamic on the floor where he's the only person not shooting, you can be fine. But if you have any other non-shooters on the floor, it's a problem. Because he's not creating spacing for them. So a trade to the Utah Jazz is in order. I think him and Donovan Mitchell could be potentially awesome. But as far as right now, nobody's talking about that. I don't think anybody's even thinking about that. But nevertheless, I don't know what to expect as far as Game 7 is concerned based on everything being so inconsistent with this series. But I'm inclined to believe that Philadelphia is going to win it at home, that Joel Embiid is going to go off and go great because he's had so many heartbreaking losses in the playoffs as of recently that I just don't see him allowing his team to fail tonight. That's how I'm going with that. I just don't see him allowing his team to fail tonight. And again, my rule of thumb is always this. When you have an opportunity to win Game 6, you have a 3-2 lead, and the game is in your house, and you don't win it, you probably lose the series. The Hawks had a great opportunity to win that game on their floor. Juneteenth, they got the MLK jerseys on, and they just didn't win. They should have won. I think that was where they should have won. Now, that doesn't always bode true, but it does more than not. When you lose that game, you're probably not going on the road to win Game 7. Not usually. And at the end of the day, the best player on the floor, in my opinion, is Joel Embiid. As great as Ice Trae has been, and Ice Trae could go off. Don't be surprised. He could go off. And may. But I still think if Joel Embiid is 100% and he does what he's supposed to do, and Tobias doesn't lay an egg, and Seth keeps shooting like he's been shooting, and all that good stuff that they've been doing, I favor them to win the game at home tonight. I do. So I got Philadelphia in 7. I kind of hope I'm wrong, to be honest with you. I really would like to see Atlanta keep moving on. I do. I kind of want to see them move on, but I don't have them winning tonight. So, my name is BDF44, Philly in 7. Thanks for watching. I'm out.